What?
Determined to get me into trouble, aren't you?
Yes. 100%.
Hi, everybody. I hope everybody is having a breathable Saturday, that the smoke has eased for a lot of people on the East Coast. It's been terrible, absolutely terrible. Fortunately, we have a couple of fires in our region, but the winds are taking most of the smoke away from us out to sea, so we're not overly troubled by smoke from wildfires. I know that some folks in Ontario and down in the eastern part of the United States are really getting it bad from that big one in northern Ontario. So hopefully things are easing up for you guys and that the weather is moving some of that smoke out of your way so that you can get down to your studio and paint, because that's what we need to do today. We need to paint. Life and the world in general is just not a very happy place these days, and I intend on spending it in my happy place. I'm going to be down here in the studio playing in paint, and hopefully you're going to join me. But today we are going to be painting an autumn piece, and we're coming in halfway through the month of July already. I don't know how that happened, but we're halfway through the month of July already. Soon it will be sunflower season, going into late August and early September, so got to paint some sunflowers. So today we're going to be doing Autumn Joy. This sort of carries over from last week's class where we did the tin bucket, the rusty tin bucket. I'm going to show you another way to do rust, which is a lot of fun. And it's super easy, and you can't really mess it up. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that. And we're going to paint some sunflowers and have a few laughs. And of course, we're going to have some giveaways. Now, in order to get your name on the wheel for the giveaways, all you have to do is join us in the chat, say hello, say good morning, tell us where you're watching from. And at the end of today, everybody that's in the chat goes up on the wheel, and then we spin it, and two of you are going to win some really nice giveaways this week. We've got some Dynasty brushes, we've got some product from DecoWort, we have a surface, we have a great little Create kit, and we've got a pattern in there. A nice print pattern for two of our winners. So that should keep everybody busy for a little bit with a little bit of luck and good management. So we have, I can see that the chat is really traveling today.
It's moving.
It's moving, yep. So as soon as we switch over, I will say hello to a few people. And
they can see the new camera in the camera.
Can they? Oh yeah, they can. You see the wee beastie here. It is a brute of a camera considering. But Renee has found some more new features that we're going to play with today. So it's just it was a great change. Let's put it that way. So if you guys are ready to paint Autumn Joy, so am I. Top down. Ta-da! Boom. Like, holy...
Yeah, that's where I need to...
He's going to adjust these a little bit.
No, you can adjust that.
Oh, I can do the zoom out. There we go. Look at that picture. Crazy, eh? This is awesome. So this is the piece we're working on today. This is Autumn Joy. This one's got the rusty tin can and a little bit of twine and some bolt sunflowers. I love sunflowers. I love painting sunflowers. They're just fun to paint. And then, of course, we got this fun little tag and a stenciled background. I really like this. This is a very, this is one of my go-to backgrounds for anything country. I just love that old-fashioned, you know, that Purina background, I call it. That old checkerboard pattern that's aged and distressed, and it's just a fun one to do. So this is what we're going to be doing today. Lots of fun techniques involved in this one. We're going to be using a stencil. In this case, I'm using a 3/4 check stencil. You can use a 1/2 inch or a 1 inch, whatever size you happen to have on hand will work just fine. I was going to say that size doesn't matter, but when it comes to stenciling a background, absolutely not. You can do whatever size check that you happen to have on hand. It will work just fine. Even the little teeny tiny checks will work just fine. You're just going to heavily distress them. I mean, let's face it. This is not the main feature. It's just a supporting thing. So
Alright.
you're bad. So we're going to be doing a heavily distressed background, and then we're going to paint some really pretty sunflowers on top of it. So if you guys are ready to go, let's get started with our background. I can't say hi to anybody because I don't have the chat up here.
Not yet.
He's going to put me up. He's just sorting out a few little things.
I'm just checking out the YouTube mobile.
Oh, right. He's got it set up on mobile now.
YouTube mobile. It's good to go. It just looks weird on.
Yeah, because it's sideways. But they can switch that just by hitting that little expand button on their phone. So the color we're using is cobblestone. And we're going to do this imperfectly. And the brush I'm using is a 5/8 Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brush. I'm using a light touch and changing directions frequently because I don't want these fully opaque. I don't want them perfect. Neatness doesn't count for this by any stretch of the imagination. I want this to look like it's been sitting in a garage or an old barn.
Oh, there's a dog down
A
there.
storeroom. Hi, Papa Dog. There's Mace. For years on end. And I like to use a little piece of painter's tape to ensure it stays where I put it. Here we are. I like cobblestone for this. If you don't have cobblestone, you can use khaki tan. You can use burlap. You just need a nice warm neutral. Essentially just something that's lighter than the background. You could even use like a sand gray or something like that. I just avoid using a white because of that high contrast. And it's a little too bright. That's all.
YouTube's encoder or Facebook's encoder is poop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not the greatest picture, right?
No, but that's Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook has been keeping up with their live services.
Yeah. There we go. So essentially, I want to fill this background with some soft, irregular, imperfect squares, for lack of a better term. Oops. There we go. Now, I do have a tip about stenciling that some people always say, well, blot it on a piece of paper towel or something. You can do that. But one of the things that I like to do is I start on one of the larger closed areas like this. That's where I put my brush so that when I move out onto the open areas of the stencil, I've left the bulk of that wet paint on that closed area.
Should be able to switch it here.
So for me, that works. There we are. Look at that. Oops. There we
Give me
go.
a second. There you go.
There. Beth Green, Lori Fuller. Hi, Lori. Ooh, Lori Fuller was in the Yukon for 2 months.
She got lost, or
I was going to say, I was wondering if she did it on purpose or... The Yukon is a little wild. And a little remote. But what was that about?
she wants the Malinois hug.
Oh, she wants a Mal hug. Okay. You do you.
Oh yeah.
Watch your ears.
Okay.
Somebody needs to go out.
Yep. Go get a ball.
There she goes. Huh. Sandy Fowler. How do I clean my stencils? I'll be honest. This one has probably not been cleaned in quite some time. But about once a month, I take a whole pile of stencils that look pretty much like this, and I take my stencil brush and some hand sanitizer, and I scrub my stencils with hand sanitizer. And it'll take the paint off very easily. It also cleans the stencil brush at the same time. And then I just wipe them off, and then I'll give them a rinse once I've got them all cleaned. And then I lay them flat to dry in between sheets of shop towel or paper towels, let them dry flat, and then I put them back in their bins. Like a herd of elephants running out of the room. It's like a herd of elephants in this house most of the time. Between 3 cats, the dog, and 4 humans. It's a zoo. Oh, my star. Oh, there's Deb Daniker and Janet Roach. Hello. And Dawn. Hi, Dawn. And Judy Thacker. And Debbie, what's for dinner tonight? Tonight we are doing salad wraps. I toast tortillas, or warm tortillas. And then we fill them up with lettuce and tomatoes and cheese and roast chicken, and we're actually using grilled chicken. That's what we're having tonight. That's because last night we had a big spaghetti dinner. It was a bit. Friday night we usually do something simple, or order pizza or make pizza or whatever. The Friday night's usually our junk food night. Let's call it that. And last night I decided on spaghetti for some unknown reason. So spaghetti it was. And so tonight we need something a little bit lighter. So we're having salad wraps, which are, toasted tortillas, and we stuff them full of all sorts of light salad goodies. And then we have a plate full of chopped vegetables. And yeah, exactly. I don't have to cook anything. That's the big thing. Not when it's 30 degrees. There's Bonnie. Hello. Bonnie. Lynn Marie. Hello from Texas. Oh my goodness. It must be warm down there. Barbara Delp. Hello, Barb. Everybody's here. Linda Scorsone. Huh, nice to see ya. So we're going to distress this background. I'm going to use my little gator here. I love this thing. I love the fact that it comes with 1,000,001 pieces of sandpaper that are just Velcroed. This thing is the best thing. And then I'm going to distress this. Now, I like to distress in one direction, especially when you're doing something like this. And I am not gentle about it. I want to wear right through those checks. Whoops. I also want to create a worn edge, like so, and wear into the corners. Let me show you. I got to show you this feature because this is so cool. I'm going to max zoom. Look at this. This is so cool. Renee set me up with this. So this is what we're looking to do. Let me get that up to the corner. Look at that. See how we've worn right through that paint and right into the wood. But check it out. Back to my original zoom, and I can zoom out. Haha. You're off produce? Oh my goodness. Oh, Colleen, I'm so sorry. That was... that virus or bacteria, whatever, it can be dangerous if you're not taking good care of yourself. So please. You have a painting tool sickness? Lynn, makes 2 of us. If there's a gadget, I gotta have it. I love gadgets. And I have baskets of I have bins of gadgets. So as you can see, I am not being gentle. Hi, Elaine. I am not being neat and tidy about this whatsoever. Look at that. Oh, I love it. So now, as always, oh goodness. Hi, Anne. My buddy Ann Fogg. I got the most, I have to show you guys this. I get a lot of, I send out a lot of racks. So it's a neat treat when I get one myself. I got this. It was fabulous from my buddy Ann. Look at this. I gotta zoom in. So this thing is friggin' amazing. Look at that. And it's neat to get your own words thrown back at you, to have this. It was just wonderful. I got this in the mail this week. It came at a time where I really needed a smile, you know? It's perfect and beautiful, and it reminds me of all of my friends, some very special ones in the US. So absolutely love it. This will go on my tree. Came from my friend Ann Fogg. It is. It's beautiful. She did amazing. I know, right? It was a wonderful gift. So, look at this mess. I got paint everywhere. I got it zoom back out. There we go. So I've got a lot of dust is what I've got. Look at this. Dust everywhere. So I'm going to moisten a piece of shop towel like so. I'm going to clean up that dust that's on my table, but then I'm also going to wipe it off. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Look how distressed this is. Fantastic. Look at that. If you're doing something really rustic country, which this is, you want rustic distressed in that background because, you know, it fits. Now, all of this heavy distressing that I did around the outside edges is going to be pretty cool here in a second. So I'm going to take this wet shop towel, turn it inside out, and make myself a high-tech applicator. And I need a little bit of asphaltum. And I'm going to grab a little bit of color. Don't be afraid to do this. I'm going to rub that color into that distressed area around the outside edge. Just like that. You get that dark brown down into that open wood. It stains it. And it makes it look so old. I love this look. Somebody asked me the other day what I do with all of these country pieces. Well, I frame them. And I put them in those frames, and then I switch them out in my kitchen. And the main floor bathroom and the dining room. I sort of switch them all out every once in a while. So you might walk in and there'll be all, farm fresh eggs, farm fresh milk. And then there'll be something about the country kitchen. And then the following month, there'll be something else. And then in the fall, there'll be sunflowers and leaves. And I love this look. I always have, but I really like it in a more contemporary frame. It's a really neat juxtaposition of the two. Having something heavily distressed and then having it tucked into a very clean white mat with a dark black frame. It just, it gives things a neat look. And I don't spend a fortune at, at HomeSense. So I make all the things that I hang in my house instead. So there's Marlene Dombrowski. Right from Timmins. The smoke has gotten a bit better. Why did I call this Happy Holidays? Happy Holidays we did last week. Today's is called Autumn Joy. Happy Holidays was the tin can with the holly leaves and the candy canes. This is the one we did last week with the holly. Shop towel versus paper towel. Shop towel doesn't fall apart as easily as paper towel. You look forward to more, maybe, hopefully, please, Tracy. Watch the sunflowers or the country or the Christmas. Mm. Yeah, and Shop Towel is really great. What is the name on YouTube? Tracy Morrow Design. They put the wrong name on the video? Then we're going to have to chastise Renee because he's the one that updated the video. So we'll have a look. Okay, so I've got... That's the way to make tater salad. I agree. Got to have eggs. All the things I mentioned. Okay. Yes. It was last week's. Don't know what happened. I was sitting here when he changed everything, so... Here we go. So you can keep going until the outside edge gets as dark as you want. That's entirely up to you. And then once you have that outside edge dark as you like it, then you're going to put a wash of asphaltum over the whole thing. Okie dokie, then we'll fix that. We just finished updating, so God only knows what happened. It seems every time you update something, something goes sideways. There we are. So the one thing I like to do is sort of leave a lighter area in the center. Okay. Heidi, Alice, boys, girl, you are busy. So I'm going to dry this. Now, one of the things that I really love about doing this type of a background is that you can't really make it too dark. Because using that lighter value, you can still see the print. So you've got this nice distressed background in here, all of these stencils, all of these checks. And then when you come back in with all of this antiquing, it surprisingly doesn't bury it because you're putting it in very thin layers. So you still have quite a bit of that pattern still showing through. And it makes the next part so simple. So if you are a big fan of the really dark outside edge, and you don't want any more brown, I'm going to show you a trick. So instead of using a black is going to give you a very cold and very dark, heavy outline. So you avoid using a solid black. You want to stick with warmer tones because we've got a warm tone over top of this cool tone. We want a warmer tone, so I'm going to work with soft black. Oh, you discovered the... She discovered the mobile version at the same time, so it looked like two. Yeah. Do I date my pieces? No, I don't. My original line drawings are dated, but I don't... I've never gotten into the habit of putting a date on my pieces. I don't know why. I haven't. So I'm picking up a little bit of soft black. And this is only if you want a darker, heavier background. And when I do this, I prefer to use it primarily in the corners. And just pull a little color along the edge and then deeper into the corner. So that little bit of soft black can do wonders if you want a darker edge. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice is that soft black has almost a purplish tinge to it. And that's because it's a red black. There is a fair amount of red in this. And because you're putting it on in such thin layers, you have control. So you can limit it. So anytime you're working on something like this and you have worked to the point where your center looks a little bit darker than perhaps it should be, just darken the outside edge. It will give the center a lighter appearance. So it's an easy way to bring a little balance in towards the center just by going around the outside edge. Chicken wire is another great stencil that works back there. And I'll tell you, don't be afraid to use things like polka dots. Big polka dots work back there too. It just changes the vibe of it, but it still carries that sort of distressed quality. And I'm a big fan of polka dots. So you could use polka dots back there. You could use check. You could use chicken wire. You can use almost anything back there. Aw, Lori, thank you. That's very sweet. I love a good background. I love a good background. So, there we go. Speaking of backgrounds, I spent a lot of time designing this week. I got a little carried away. Oh, Deb, Karen Jones is talking about the great egg experience. I am still finding bits of egg. So there's our background. Now from this point, you're ready to trace and transfer your line drawing on. I would recommend using a light gray or a white. It will make your life a whole bunch easier. Kim Roberts McCutcheon Peters. Hi, from Pennsylvania. Hi, Kim. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? So I've got my line drawing in place. I love this piece, but then again, I love anything with sunflowers. Oh my gosh. Karen, that is without a doubt one of the most burned into my brain memories. So we're going to put a tabletop in this piece. And I was sitting here when I was working on the first piece and I was putting in the tabletop and I thought to myself, why did I make this so hard on myself when I could have made this so simple, right? Oh no, not me. No, I got to find the hardest way to do something and then figure out where I went wrong and then make it easy for everybody else. So this is where I kind of messed up. I was looking for the horizon line, just looking for a simple tabletop, just to imply that there's one. And then I figured that right here, 1/4 of an inch through the checkerboard would be ideal. Never mind that if I had just gone up, 1/4 of an inch, I wouldn't have had to measure it because, there's already a line there, right there. Because no, why would I do something simple? So I had to grab a watercolor pencil. And I'm going to put a line right there, going across the top of this row of checks, right there. You know, like, why make things more difficult for myself? Good heavens. So I put in a tabletop. I just ran it right across the top. On the TV, the picture is on the middle third of the screen. The base is to the left. I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, I see. The base on the TV is on the middle third of the screen. You're looking at you're talking the tall, skinny one where the image is sideways. That is actually the mobile version. Renee has us set up for the mobile version too. So I'm going to take a little bit of sand gray. You can do this with warm white too. Just sand gray was within reach. So I'm going to take a little bit of sand gray and a little bit of warm white. And we're going to, oh goodness, I've got way too much paint in my brush, but that's okay. I'm going to use a mop to soften it anyway. And then I'm going to put just a little of that lighter value right here. Pardon me. Good heavens. I'm afraid my voice is going again. Not that we don't have a lot of smoke here. We get a little scent of it, but it's not horrible. But we do have a rather high pollen count, so forgive me if my voice breaks. So a little bit of I'm going to say warm white or sand gray right in here and along that tabletop. This is just to create the illusion that there's, a little distance there. There we go. There. So I might want to put a bit more. And it's very light, very foggy. It's not meant to be a super bright highlight, but just enough to diffuse that background a little bit. Oh my goodness. Yes, the smoke is terrible. We have a fire at Oromocto Lake that they finally got under control today. We had a series of dry thunderstorms roll through here. So, and we are at, the forests are very, very dry. And here they're very, very dense. So, and a lot of the time, some of them are really difficult to get to. So, we're kind of watching the horizon, if you know what I mean. So we have a really cool technique, or I should say I have a really cool technique for doing rust. And it involves using a texture medium. So if I can find my palette knife. So I'm using a little bit of texture sand. You can get this in a 2-ounce bottle. It's available at Michael's, believe it or not. It's with the mediums. And you only need about that much, which is roughly about a half a teaspoon. You don't need much. And you're going to put that on the palette. And you're going to mix it with an equal amount of asphaltum. My favorite color. Equal amount of asphaltum. And you're going to mix the two together. Easy peasy. And you'll know when it's fully mixed, when you stop seeing gray streaks in it, and all you have is asphaltum. There we go. And essentially what it makes is a gritty, thick paint. Oh my stars. Well, the heavy rain is welcome as long as there's not that bloody lightning with it. Mm. Well, we only had the one, but I guess there's a couple up north now. And there's one over towards St. Stephen. And then one was out towards can't remember the name of the town now. Jeez, my brain shut off. Can I show it? Yeah. I'm using a jar. It's called Texture Sand Paste, but you can also get it in a 2-ounce bottle. It looks just like a bottle of paint, and you'll find it with the mediums when you go into the mediums in a Michael's store. That's where you'll find it. Howdy. There's a few people kind of confused about the
title.
Well, the title is messed up. And they've got 2 lives, and that one is the mobile version. So there's a few people wondering how come it was.
It's sideways for people on phones.
If you're on a phone, you
can turn it sideways.
Yep. So you're going to take this mixture.
I'm going to fix the title right now.
Thank you.
Why I did that.
I don't either. I was sitting here while you put it in. So you're going to paint the can with this mixture, like so. Up underneath those sunflowers. So all of these big open areas are going to get done first, like so. Not that they're huge, but they're big open areas. Just like that.
There's one. and it does come up as two separate lives.
Yeah.
There it is.
There we go.
Number 2.
So you're just going to brush that medium into those little areas, the bigger areas on that can. And we're going to dry it, and then we're going to give it another coat. Hey, Vicky. And Denise Chavez, hello.
There is 2 streams.
Yep.
Normal. One of them sideways for mobile.
Yep. Yep. So if you're looking at the YouTube channel and you're seeing 2 streams, you're not sure which one. One is for mobile phone access, and the other one is for television and tablets and stuff like that. Yep. So that second coat is going to give you a much better look, just like that. And we're going to dry it. And then you have to remember that these top 4 rows up there, 4 or 5 up here, are the twine. I'm going to say 4. And then right below it are 3 ridges that are going to be separate. And I like doing them separately because in the end, it works out much better than if it's just a solid piece. Now, I have a small round here somewhere. There it is. And I'm going to use this small round to put those 3 rows in. And I try to leave a little space between them. Doesn't have to be much, just a little. Here we go. Now, having that little gap just makes it easier as we go along to put in the shading and the other details that we need in here. And then we have a row down here as well. They don't have to be perfect, but I try to pull them in one direction and follow the curve of the can. But again, they don't have to be perfect. And then right here at the bottom, we have another row for that bottom edge of the can. You know, that little rim right here. What's up?
Judy Dagger, I was on the wrong version of YouTube. The portrait live is amazing. Cool.
This new camera has afforded us a few interesting perks.
Yeah. Get you your chat back.
So although it looks a little rustic, whoa, okay. Why did it do that?
Because they can't fit where they were
Oh,
supposed
okay.
to.
All right.
If you want your chat.
Denise, thank goodness I avoid perfection at all costs. Yeah. There we go. I've got...
Remember, you got 3 new buttons.
I know, I got all kinds of buttons. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this a little closer. Okay. I am such an idiot. There. I was going to hold it up to the camera and then I remembered I have this super zoom.
You have more zoom than that.
I have more zoom than that. Look. Bing. Bing.
You can keep going.
So essentially we were covering up the areas that actually are can, and the areas that are not remain open. And then when this is dry, you can feel it actually feels like rust. It's got a little bit of a texture to it, which is kind of cool. So the idea is just paint it in, but try to follow the shape of the can. So instead of, you know, slip slapping it in, follow the shape of the can while you're applying it so that that texture follows that the actual shape of the can. It will pay benefits in the end. Ta-da! Look at that. I think that's so cool. So I'm going to make sure that's completely dry. I know, I love the super zoom. Super zoom. I love the fact that he built me a switch so I can zoom in myself. I don't need to have him come back down and sort it out. It's a beastie of a camera, and I'm so excited about it. So we've got our tin can is all rusty now. And we're going to bring in some rust colors now. I'm going to start with a little bit of asphaltum and perhaps a little bit of lamp black. And we're going to establish some shadows first. Now, I do not use my best brushes on this stuff. Do I have a cape for super zoom? I don't use my best brushes working over this because this medium will chew up a brush. So I tend to gravitate towards, you know, those cheapies that we all stock in our supplies. So I'm picking up a little bit of soft black and I'm loading my brush to float. I'm going to blend this out a little bit and we're going to separate those little ridges a little bit. Oh, the soft black is not cutting it. I'm going to mix a little bit of lamp black because I cannot even see that. There we go. So tiny little float in between each of those ridges. You can do it with asphaltum. You could do it with almost any dark color, but I'm doing it with a little bit of lamp black because I couldn't even see that. I don't expect you to. There we go. It is hard to see, I know. And then you're going to do the same thing to this one up here. Don't worry about it being very dark because, quite honestly, we're going to put some highlights in here shortly that are going to eliminate that issue altogether. There we go. Look at that. So we've got, look at those little ridges. A little bit of lamp black or soft black or a mixture of both, quite honestly. And then I'm going to come down here to the bottom and I'm going to put a little float right along the top of that bottom ridge on the bottom of the can. You can see it much more clearly here. So you're going to put this float in all along here. And then you're going to float up underneath your flowers as well. And along there is a ridge at the top of this can, so we're going to float along it too. Here we go. Now, when you're shading this tin can, because you must, we're going to float down the sides of it like this. Good gravy, Marie. Just float underneath that leaf and down. So we want a narrow shadow on this side. And then we're going to put another shadow on the other side. Again, we're going to use a little bit of that lamp black or soft black. And we're going to float underneath that tag and up this side of the can and up underneath our flower. But this float is going to come in a little further. This one's going to come in about 3/4 of an inch. Hi, Betty. Oh my goodness. You guys have really been getting the wild weather. We've had a little bit of rain. We had storms threatened, but we didn't get much. But there was a line of thunderstorms to the southeast of, or southwest of us that kicked up a couple of wildfires. So yeah, and I don't know if any of you saw the video that I posted the other day of the traffic jam in the village. Every single morning, I think we're one of the few places that has a Canada Goose crossing sign at the entrance to the village. We have a sign up telling people to watch for the Canada geese because we have a flock of them that come back every year. And there is a couple of ponds just as you enter the village on the right-hand side. And we have a flock of geese that come back every year. But it seems that, twice a day they cross the highway through the village. And so we end up with these traffic jams. And of course, they're always at, the times of day where people are heading to work. So Yeah, we had a little traffic jam, so it was quite funny. I thought you guys would get a kick out of it. Hi, Robin. I love it. The rusty tin cans, I think, are just, they're a cool thing. And this one is so simple because essentially we've done all the shading. So if I zoom in, I'm going to bring this in, max zoom it here so you can see. So we've got all the shading. So 3/4 of an inch on this side, about a 1/2 an inch on this side, and then shaded underneath each of those ridges. It looks pretty rough for a little while. Zoom is too close. I can zoom out. So I'm going to use, you can use your favorite dry brush, whether that's a small stencil brush, or in my case, I love using a stencil brush. I do have like this. This is an old chewed up dome stippler that I really like. And I'm going to bring in a few autumnal colors that I really like. I've got Orange Flame, which is always a favorite. And where's my Canyon Orange? Red Spaz, Canyon Orange. I want a darker orange. You can even use Georgia Clay. Georgia Clay is a great color for rust. So I need to get my oranges out. I've got, ooh, there's burnt orange. Canyon orange, burnt orange. So I've got burnt orange. I love this color. And then I love to have a really bright orange handy for this because you need something with a little oomph. But I love how this looks. So I'm going to use my chewed up old blender. I'm going to load it up with burnt orange or Canyon orange or Georgia Clay. And we're going to dry brush the open areas. And it is going to overlap that shading a little bit. Same with those little ridges. Don't forget to put that on there. In those larger open areas. On the ridges. Look at that. It amazes me, always amazes me how fast this starts to look like rust. And then I'm going to put a little bit of that orange flame because you need that brighter orange. And I have not cleaned my brush. And don't be afraid to bring that so that it overlaps that shading. You can always deepen the shadows. You can always come back and deepen shadows if needs be. But this is what gives this that rusty look. So it catches on that little bit of texture and it gives you that great rusty look. Now, one of the great ways to do this is to take a small round or a round of your favorite size, and you're going to take that orange flame and I'm going to mix it with either a little bit of warm white. You just need to make this a little brighter. Oops, that wasn't warm white. And just using the tip of the brush, highlight those ridges. Now the bulk of that highlight is towards the right or the left center. So you kind of want to bring a little of that in there, little in here. And the same here. I have got very little paint on the brush, but just enough to brighten that area right there. Now I'm going to take a little bit, here we go, a little bit of that orange flame. We need a bright spot. So this is just straight orange flame. Brighten that highlighted area in there. Brighten those ridges. Brighten that. I just think this is such a fun way to create a tin can. It's such an easy way to do it. So I'm going to dry this. And then I'm going to add a little bit of warm white to my countertop, to my palette, I should say. I'm going to move some of the colors back into the racks here. There we go. I'm going to bring a little bit of warm white into my orange, into that orange flame. And we're going to put just a few final little highlights. These are brighter highlights mainly onto the textured areas, like the ridges of the can. A little bit on those ridges. I like to accentuate the ridges because that's what kind of makes this a tin can. So there's our brighter highlight. Look at that. There we go. I love it. So our tin can is really looking rusty. Now you can continue to play with this until the cows come home because it's one of those things. You know, it's one of those things you want to play with. So I'm going to rinse my brush out and we're going to paint in our tag. Because our tag is what kind of brings that can forward a bit. That, you know, that clean edge and then that high contrast around the can. I love this look. There we go. The fun part about this is that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a tin can. So I'm going to dry that. You know, you could bring in a little neon, absolutely. A little neon, actually, I think would be fun. Why don't we try that? I think we should try that. As I happen to have neon orange right here. Ta-da! Let's try it. I mean, it can't hurt, right? It's just paint. If we don't like it, we can paint over it. That's the great thing about paint. So I've got a little bit of neon orange. Oh my, oh my. Look at that. Oh, see, I'm really liking that. That neon orange is really amping up that kind of rusty look. A little bit. You could have way too much fun with this, honestly. Like, how fun is that? I love it. I am a big fan of neons. I am a big fan of neons. I love how they look. Rinse out my brush here. I'm trying to be a good girl. I get way carried away, and then I go and have a look at my painting palette, and it looks like a dog's breakfast. And then I realize that every brush I own is in my water basin, and I'm terrible for that. And I usually take pretty good care of my brushes, but when I get on a binge, I end up spending far too much time cleaning brushes, or not nearly enough, depending on how you look at it. And unfortunately, if I get too wrapped up in what I'm doing, I suddenly realize that I have 7 or 8 brushes sitting in water when they really shouldn't be. There we go. So I put a second coat of warm white on my tag. I love neons. Whenever you need a really, a zap of color, little punch, they're great. So look at there. I love how that color pops. As soon as you put this in, the rest of it comes to life. But it's even more so when you do all of that twine. So I'm using cobblestone for the twine. I mean, honestly, you could use whatever color you like. I'm a fan. Oh, I made a mistake there. Whoopsie. You can use whatever colors you like for the twine, quite honestly. I'm a fan of using this cobblestone because I find it has that sort of jute look to it, which appeals to me. But I also like the fact that this does not have to be, meticulous. That's what makes this fun. So I'm using strokes to do this because I don't want this to be this hard-edged, super piece. Here we go. Some red. And I do like to have spaces between things because it leaves you a little room for shading. It leaves you a little room for a variety of things. And at the same time, it also means that you have a little leeway. And you can play a little. Look at that. So I'm painting in my twine. And again, the minute I put that twine on, everything comes together. Everything starts to look like what it's supposed to be. There we go. Now, when you get to the end of your twine, take a little time to, to draw out a few little strands so that it's got a little texture at the end. Hi, Georgia. Oh, Bonnie, that's a sweet thing. I've come to the conclusion that I get very bored very quickly if there's no variation in things. And I'm always looking for a new technique or a new product or a new method that will give you what you're looking for with less aggravation. So if you're enjoying whatever I'm putting out there, that's fantastic. Because I'm doing things that I enjoy doing. And if it helps somebody else, fantastic. So there we go. I've got my jute. I love how this comes together. This is just such a fun piece to do. Now, just like the other day with the big coffee can, the jute that we did on that, we're going to do the same thing with this one. With one slight variation, I'm going to shade it first. Julia, it is recorded, so you can watch it in full after the fact. We always record. So I've left all these little spaces for a reason, because I like to know where I have to place things. And if I don't leave that space, well, then I have to come back in and retrace everything. And God knows I hate doing that. So I'm going to put a little float of asphaltum on the bottom of each row. And it's not a neat and tidy, perfect float. It's just a little color to darken the bottom. And let me know if it needs to zoom in anymore. So this gives us that little shadow on the underside. I'm going to do the same thing to this. Neatness doesn't count. Perfection is to be avoided. There we go. A little shadow underneath there. A little shadow there. I put a little one on the outside edge there. And then I'm going to dry this. Thank you, Sherry. My husband asked me the other day, when was the first time I picked up a paintbrush? I honestly couldn't answer that, because when I was a kid, if I wanted to do or paint or whatever, my parents made sure that I had what I wanted. And one of my favorite things was these books that had the little dots, and all you used was a wet paintbrush to move the color into the space, sort of like a coloring book, but with watercolor. And I think I was probably 6 or 7. And I fell in love with using a paintbrush. And then about 6 years later, my parents gave me painting lessons. We were living in the States at the time for short term, but we were there anyway. And I ended up taking classes with a lovely woman that taught classes in her home, and her husband was so sweet. And my parents talked to them if they would take a 12-year-old girl. And she was reluctant because she didn't know, what my skill set would be or how dedicated I would be to it or how well I would listen, etc. But she agreed in the end, and I took classes with her for the entire summer we were there. And at that time in the early 70s, it was $20 a week was a lot of money. But that's what my parents spent. So I have literally been painting since I was 12. And in that length of time, I've learned a lot. I know, right? I used to get those in my stocking too. I loved them. So I went around the outside edge of my tag with a float of asphaltum. So yeah, so to answer my husband's question, I have been painting for over 50 years. There we go. So all the way around the outside edge of the tag, got a little float of asphaltum. Hi, Debbie. And Charmaine Bannister. Hello. So we've got our shading on our thing. I'm going to use a little bit of sand gray for this. And I'm going to put a small diagonal stroke starting at the top edge and overlapping that little float on our jute. And they're roughly the same distance apart. They're not perfect. They're just little strokes. We're just putting in a little texture on this jute. Just like that. Doesn't have to be much, doesn't have to be perfect. When I was studying, going to school to study art, one of the things that we were taught was that things don't have to be perfectly detailed. A lot of detail is simply implied, and that's essentially what you're doing here. You're implying texture or implying a detail. And it does wonders when you stop worrying about getting things just so and just worry about getting the overall texture in place. And that's essentially it, where in this case, directionality means more than getting the detail perfect. As long as the texture goes in the right direction, it works. So we're implying that there's a twist in this by putting this little stroke in at an angle. If I did it straight up and down, it wouldn't work. So I have to put it in at an angle so that it implies that there's a twist in it. So it works. It doesn't have to be perfect to do it. So little diagonal, as long as it's going diagonally across that jute, it doesn't have to go all the way across. So already, even at a distance, it looks like jute. So then I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white, and we're going to highlight that texture in just a few places. And now if you look, our highlight goes to the center left on this piece. So any highlight that we do on that little twist with that warm white is going to be within that center left. So it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to go everywhere, just in a few locations. And it's that which brightens that highlight. It makes this area pop, that highlight area pop. So we're restricting it to, half an inch or an inch or so within our piece so that we're not over detailing anything. So now you can see where that highlight lives in the center. So I'm just putting little dabs of warm white in that area. And voila. No, Charmaine, we're still Tracy Morrow live. Nothing's changed. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to put a final shading in on this piece. So a little bit of asphalt. Need a little more water here. There we go. So I need to shade this side. And inside that knot, like so. Inside that string. Little shadow in there. I missed one. Like, seriously. And I missed an important one. I missed this. This is that part of the jute that goes through the tag. I forgot to put the highlight on it. There we go. So our little tag and our jute is really popped. That little shadow that you tuck in there, here and here, is what brings that little piece of jute to life. And don't forget, that jute casts a shadow onto our little tag. I love that this works so well. And it's super simple. It doesn't have to be perfect. But that little shadow makes a world of difference. That one that you tuck inside that jute. Look at that. So there's our jute. It pops forward really nicely. Now we've got that little tag. And once we're done with this tag, we can move on to our sunflowers, which actually work up really quick. I love this look. That rustic old tin can. So we've got our little tag here. I'm going to put a line of stitches around the outside edge. I just think that this is such a fun little detail. It looks as if somebody has sewn it. It's just simple little lines. I think it just gives this tag a little more character, a little more interest. There we go. Now, in the supply list, I've asked for 2 markers. These are Posca paint pens, and I have a black one and a white one. We're going to use the white one to do the top lettering, and then the black one to do the joy. Now, you don't need to transfer the line drawing back on. Of course, you can if you so desire. But quite honestly, you don't need to. Just print the word joy onto the tag, and it can be as rough or as perfect as you like. So now we have, look at our little can. Now, you could do this method and then put whatever flower you wanted into it. So if you wanted to take this portion of the line drawing and just do the rusty tin can and fill it with holly leaves and a couple of candy canes, you could do that. Or you could fill it up with whatever flower you want. But we're going to use a little bit of this material down here, this texture that we used on our tin can. We're also going to use on the center of the sunflowers. And this is a fun technique. So I'm going to take my mixture that I made, and I'm just going to stipple a gob of it on to the centers of these sunflowers. Again, neatness does not count. Just put a nice coat of this medium on the center of the flowers. Just tuck it in nice and neat. I just think this is a fun technique because we're going to use, yep, that's right, Linda. My word for this year is joy. Finding joy, creating joy, whatever. There's enough bad things in the world. We don't need to add to it. So I'm going to add joy. Joy, joy, joy. So I love this stuff because you can make gobs of it work for you. And in this case, we're going to make it work for us for a couple of things. The other nice thing is it stays wet quite a while. So it gives you a little leeway. So there we go. Ta-da! We could. There's enough horrible things happening in the world. Got to find our joy and take it where we can. Virginia Ruiz. Hola. Saludos desde Argentina, Buenos Aires. Bellissimo te va. Cuidando, te admiro mucho, sos perfecta. Wow, I do not speak Spanish, but I speak enough French to understand what that meant. Thank you. Muchas gracias, señor. Muchas gracias, mi amiga. So, look at that. I love working with texture mediums. They're so fun. Hi, Gwen. And Subron. Sprinkled. Okay, so we're going to give ourselves a clean palette because all of the rough stuff is done. Oh, I'm a huge fan of Posca markers, and now I'm a huge fan of Posca pencils, which is such a dangerous thing that they make colored pencils. So we're going to start with some warm white. I wish they made this in like great big bottles, buckets, really. I could like lay waste. So we're going to start with a nice round brush and some warm white. I'm going to thin it a little bit with a little bit of either water or glaze. It doesn't matter which. Glaze is very handy to have. Is texture medium like Snow Tex? No, it is not. Snow Tex is actually a very lightweight texture added to a paint base. Whereas a texture sand is a transparent base that contains a silica sand. So it's quite a bit different. And it is a transparent base so that when you add a color to it, it remains that color. So we're going to start with these flowers and this flower in the background. We're just going to base these petals. Here we go, bunny leaves already. With a little bit of warm white. And again, I like to leave a little space between the various segments. And I'm going to have to make some more mix. What was this? Oh, well, I'm glad. Joy is definitely needed. We all have a little extra. So, all of these petals are going to be based with a single coat of warm white. We are using an opaque yellow to color these petals, but because we're working on such a dark background, I prefer to have a little bit of white underneath. It does make a huge difference in the end on how these flowers look. So it's a good idea to get a coat of white down. Doesn't have to be opaque, but you do need a little coat of white. Here we go. Just like that. As I said, it doesn't need to be perfect and it doesn't need to be fully opaque. Ta-da! But I did forget a spot right back here. There's another sunflower back here that's peeking forward, and I missed base coating the center of it. There's just a portion of it showing through there. So I'll come back in with a little bit of asphaltum here in a little while and fill that in. Thing about sunflowers, I don't know if you've ever lived in a spot where sunflowers were a crop. I did. I lived in Winnipeg, Manitoba for 10 years, loved it. It's a beautiful city if you ever get the chance. Just outside of Winnipeg, there is a town called Eli. It was devastated by a tornado a number of years ago, about 20-some years ago. And if you've ever been out that way, late summer, just as you come off around the bend in the highway, you'll come to a huge field. And as far as the eye can see, literally, is nothing but sunflowers. Bunny leaves. I know somebody asked me what that was about the other day. Yep, but I kid you not, the first time I ever saw it, it was just awe-inspiring because as far as your eye could see was nothing but sunflowers. And it seemed to go on forever. But it was just the most gorgeous thing. I had to stop and take pictures because it was just jaw-dropping to see these beautiful flowers. And I'm a huge fan of sunflowers to start with. So, sunflowers and daisies, my favorite flowers. Quite literally my favorite flowers. Sunflowers and daisies. I paint daisies a lot and I paint sunflowers a lot because favorite flower. So, and I've got a little petal right here. Do-do-do-do. See, as you can see, I'm not really worried about them being perfectly. Hi there, Karen at Wilcox Alexander. Nice to have you with us. It is. It's a beautiful city. Cindy, I'm with you. Daisies in every shape imaginable are my favorite. Interesting enough, if you look at sunflowers and daisies, they all belong to the same family, Asteraceae. So technically, they're just a giant daisy. Giant sunflowers. We have a nice big backyard, and I keep looking for a spot to put sunflowers that is going to be effective. So remember, I told you that my little spot for my center, I have forgotten about this. So I'm going to put a little asphaltum in there so that I have my sunflower. So I'm going to dry this, and then I'm going to base in those leaves. And I didn't go overboard with the leaves. I used a lush green. Such a great color, lush green. So we're going to use lush green to base coat these leaves. And one coat is all I'm using for these leaves, because honestly, they don't need more than that. There we are. The other nice thing is these leaves contribute to the balance of this piece. It gives, a lot of fullness to this, and it contributes with a lot of contrasting color and complementary color. So I'm going to bring in this gorgeous green. Lush green was a new color last year, I believe. And I think it is one of those colors. It's just yummy. It's a yummy lush green. So I'm going to pop in these greens. Now, technically, the leaves for sunflowers are heart-shaped and have a serrated edge. And we can mimic that. But because the bulk of these is tucked up underneath the flower, it's not really easy to see that heart shape. But that's all right. It's an arrangement, so there could be almost anything tucked in here, quite honestly. Whoops. So here we are. And then we've got our little leaves. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be even all that accurate, to be honest. As long as we've got a little bit of greenery that carries outside of that arrangement. There we go. Of course, I managed to get a big lump of paint. I don't like that. So I'm going to, there, that's much better. Lumpy leaves are not a good thing. I got a little carried away with the paint. There we are. No lumpy leaves. Oh, we read to our kids every night. And both of my kids like to read. Renee's an avid reader, so is Dominique. Both of our kids, we read to them every evening. Let's see. Reading to children, I think, inspires not only a love of reading, but and it's also great for developing a very close relationship with your kids. So, we are ready to play. My favorite yellow ever is this one. This is Baby Duck. I love Baby Duck. This is just such a great color. So we're going to go over top of all of those petals with a coat of Baby Duck. Such a great yellow for a sunflower. It's a nicely opaque yellow. And when you're stroking in these petals, I try to do it in 2 to 3 strokes, simply because that way you can cover the whole petal and all of the strokes go in the same direction. So look at that. I just love that. I love this yellow. And then, doing those petals in 1 or 2 strokes gives you such a nice look for these sunflowers. So 1 or 2 strokes, all following the same direction. So you end up with a really nice finish on the petals. And any vein lines, any brush marks are just Sunflower's Daisy's Asphaltum favorite. Of course, of course. Hi, Cordy. Good to have you with us. So, as I said, you don't have to have these meticulously painted petals. As long as the strokes all go in one direction, you're good. So I get petals that have, strokes that, perhaps too many brush marks for traditional toll. And that's okay, because by the time I'm done, they just become part. Could we get a closer view? Of course you can. How's that? This is me loving my new camera. Like holy hockey pucks, Batman. Look at that. Oopsie, I missed one. There we go. You're welcome. One of the benefits to this new camera is that I have really great control over the zoom. And we have a much better zoom, thankfully. It's so much simpler. So, as I've said before, these are just stroked in. You have plenty of room to do cleanup work a little later on when it comes to the petals and to all of those things. This, to me, the camera I got is called an Elgato Prime. It's essentially an SLR for a computer. So it's a much higher end. It has a lot more capabilities. And although the other camera was excellent, it did not have the benefits of this one. This thing can do so much more. I like tucking things in behind. I like the in behind petals. So I've got one here that I gotta fix. There we go. So there. There we go. Such fun. So we have sunflowers and we have leaves. Janice, this is called, it's made by Stream Deck. And the camera is called Elgato. It's a phenomenal piece of equipment. The fact that I can zoom in so tightly just blows my mind. I mean, I'm not even fully zoomed in yet, so I can come a little further. And a little further. There we go. Fully zoomed in. And then I can come back to the zoom. So I'm going to dry this. There we go. Now I love the fact, how do I make my paint last so long before reloading? It's simple. My fast dry glaze. This is what I dress my brush with. And it extends the dry time of the paint. And I love, that's why I work with this, because then I can come back to it and come back to it and come back to it. And it's, the paint stays wet in my brush and it doesn't dry out. And it also comes off the brush really smooth. So this is the reason why I use this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shade the centers of these flowers. And I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black. There's Anna Flurry. So I'm going to float the underside of our center right here with a little bit of lamp black. Right on that textured piece. I love this part because this is where everything starts to really take its shape. So a little float right along the bottom. And on this one, because it's curved away from us and facing towards the light source, we're going to tuck in a little shadow right there along that side. And then in the center of each of these, we're going to put a C shape on that one. On this one, it's laying on its back. Little C-shaped float, or U-shaped, I guess. And the same with this one. We're putting it in the center. Gives us that little divot in the center of the flower. And then we have a center back here, but it is very dark. So we're going to put a float in there. There we go. Look at that. And I'm going to put, there is a petal overlapping this one, so I'm going to put a little shadow along there. So we have a really nice little divot in the center. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to grab a color called Red Spice. I love this color. If you don't have red spice, you can use a little bit of burnt sienna, or you can use a little bit of Georgia clay. I like the red spice for two reasons. One, I love the tone of it, and two, it's a little on the transparent side. So this is the shading color we're going to use on all of the petals. And it's just such a yummy, yummy color. So I'm going to start with these ones over here, and I'm going to use this color to separate the petals that are tucked in behind, just like that. So this one is tucked in behind the ones in the front. This one is there. This one goes there. So this is the color that we're going to use to divide our leaves, or petals, sorry, good grief. Somebody asked me about bunny leaves. What does that mean? We were painting an Easter piece. God, it's got to be like 5 years ago now. And it involved a bunny hiding in a bunch of tulips. And so all that you could really see of the bunny was just his ears. And I kept referring to his ears as leaves. When I would meant to say, bunny ears, I kept saying bunny leaves. And it's kind of stuck. So now when I mix things up, that's what I call it, bunny leaves. Such a fun way to separate these flowers. So I've got all of them divided up here. Now I'm going to put a float at the base of that petal like this. Little U-shaped float right at the base of the petal. Like that. Ooh, that one's a little dark, but that's okay. Again, I'm running out of glaze. Primarily because I'm not using a very good brush. This was my scrubby brush that I was using for, there we go. And then this brush, there we go. So we got that little U-shaped float down at the base of every Yes, it does have a little bit of an odor, Dorothy. It's kind of funky, especially after it's been opened. It kind of smells wet and almost a little musty, but it's fine. I know it has a funky odor, but it's just fine. I've been there, done that, almost threw it out. And then I learned very quickly that no. Yes, Sue, exactly. Anybody that's been following me for, especially the ones that have been with me since the beginning, have known bunny leaves is sort of an inside joke. Absolutely, Bonnie. Red spice is a far more versatile color than you really think it will be at first. So I've got those ones done. I'm going to pop that color in. I feel much better now that I've got a good brush in my hand. And it's just a simple U-shaped float right at the base of the leaf, at the petal. Good grief. Now, ordinarily, I would have done the leaves first, but I got too excited and needed to paint the flowers because that's me. I love this color, especially for sunflowers. It is just such a rich tone, and it works wonders on sunflowers. And then I'm going to tuck underneath there, and I'm going to tuck underneath there. Such a great color. Now, I have a little of overlap there. Look at that. I love it. And there is nothing to stop you from deepening that color. If you go over it and you want the color to be a bit more intense, like I want that color to be a lot more intense than that, I will reload and come back. Look at that. So I'm making this flower in the back a little bit darker simply because it's further away. And I want to maintain that distance a little bit. The fun part about doing this with this color is that because it's a little transparent, you can make it as intense or as weak as you like. And if you need it to be punched up, you can always come back in and put another layer in. More layers, more depth. So you can play with the colors quite a bit. There we go. And I definitely want to pop this one a bit more. I find these colors are a little wanting. There we go. That second layer always, look at that. It just lights up. And it's just a float. A little bit of thinned color. One thin layer over top of another just gives you oodles of tone. Lots of contrast. And lots of depth. The more layers, the more depth. And I love color. I love seeing that color go pow. So look at that. We've got this really pretty, yes, Lorianne, it is. It's red spice. So I wanted to amp this up a little because I was finding it a little meh on our little sunflower off on this side. So we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum now on our sunflower right here because we need to get a little more depth on that side. Here we go. Look at this. A little depth there. It does two things. Putting a float of that asphaltum on, it deepens the color dramatically. But it also gives these flowers towards the back a little more depth. It pushes them back a little bit. And I love this. I want that little bit of depth. And then when you look at it, you're going to think, oh, it looks a little sloppy. I've got, float marks here and there, and I need to soften that up. Well, go ahead. Soften it up, but don't forget, you got to get that shadow right in here. That shadow is important. There we go. Not too bad. Hard to believe, but we're getting so close to the end. I love this. So I'm going to deepen a shadow under here. Look at that. So pretty. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to use a glaze technique over top of this. Now, glaze is just a transparent wash over top of things, but it has a huge impact on this. So no flower is just, sunflower is not just yellow. there are different shades of yellow, different values of yellow, transparent layers. You get those touches of orange or touches of red, and then that, in your face, over the top, brilliant yellow. And that's what we're going for. So I've got a little bit of saffron yellow and a nice big round brush. And I'm going to thin out some saffron. Really get it out. So when I come into my sunflower, watch this one over here. I'm going to put a glaze of saffron yellow over top of all of the colors that we just put in there, over top of the asphaltum, over top of that spice red or red spice, over top of that baby duck and that warm white. And look what happens to those sunflowers. That little punch of yellow is what brings all of those colors together. That in-your-face yellow. That it comes screaming off of the page yellow. I'm making a mess here, getting it all over everything. So look at that yellow compared to the other two. I love that little punch of saffron. So when I put that over top, look at this. We get that gorgeous, gorgeous, deep golden yellow. It's so impactful. And it's just a glazing technique. You're just putting a thin layer of transparent color over top of all of that shading. And it brings everything together, sort of melds it and makes it one thing. So pretty. So if you thought at any time that your flowers were kind of meh, they're not. Especially when you pop in this little bit of saffron. Now, it's not limited to just doing this with yellows. You can do this with reds as well. So if you're working on a piece that has perhaps a reddish pink, like watermelon slice for a base color, but you really want to pop that reddish tone to give it lots of vibrancy, without weighing it, without making things really heavy looking, then lean into some of the transparent reds. Bring one in. Find one that's in the same temperature range. Meaning that if you're working with watermelon slice, it's a little cooler red. So lean into something like a Tuscan red to go over it. Thin it out with a little bit of glaze and do this same technique. Just pull it over top of that pink. It will make everything sing, and it makes everything jump. So look at that. That little punch of saffron yellow, that glazing technique over top of the petals, everything just comes screaming off of there. So remember that stumpy little dry brush? We're going to grab a little bit of margarita, which is our highlight color for our leaves. And I'm going to put a little bit of that. I've got a little bit of orange left in my brush. I'm bringing in a little bit of that green. And I'm going to dry brush that right there. This area right here at the bottom and at the top of our sunflower. Sort of a orangey tone. I try not to connect them if I can avoid it, so that it doesn't look like a circle, but if it does, it's okay. So you can bring a little of that color down in like that. I'm just making use of a dirty brush. There's your highlight. Look at that. And then grab a touch of that baby duck Just because it's a little more opaque, this will give you a nice light value up there. Look at that. A little bit the lower center. Just like that on those, so that you get a little lighter value. So there's the center on your flowers, just with that dirty dry brush and a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow. So we're going to set those aside for a second because we're going to finish those off in just a bit. Let's come down to our leaves. Now, one of my favorite colors lately is forest green, which is, this is a cool green. It's got a little touch of blue in it. It leans towards the phthalo tones, you know, with a little bit of that phthalo green look. I'm going to grab a little of that. And this is my shading color on my leaves. I'm going to give a U-shaped float at the top of the leaf where it joins the stem. Just like that. I'm trying to keep it a little watery, mainly because I want this to have that sort of softer look. I don't want it to be fully opaque. I want it a little softer. Here we go. Look at that. I love this green. It has a really nice vibrancy. It shades very nicely. It's quite transparent. So it's a bit more forgiving than, say, a black green, and it's not as cold as a black green. Black green to me is a little flat when it goes on. Although I love it, I use it for a variety of things. But this one just has energy. Because of that little bit of phthalo in it, it has a nice energy. And it works really well with these high yellows. Oh my goodness. I don't know what we're getting. And then I've got a leaf over here that comes in behind that sunflower. Oof. There we go. Not quite enough moisture in my brush for that one. There we go. And then we've got this one right here. Look at that. So I'm going to dry that. Oh, you know what, Carrie? A little neon yellow at the tips. So pretty. Little bit of neon yellow at the tips is so, so pretty. Pop a little bit at the points. Oh, gorgeous. So, leaves are dry. I'm going to give a center vein on these leaves. Need a little more fluid. There we go. Just to float down the center vein. There we go. There we go. Look at that. I love it. The green that I used for shading is the Black Forest green. I love the tone of it. It just gives us such a nice, vibrant color. So I've got a little bit of margarita. And this is how I do my leaves. So float down the center vein. Like so. And then a little highlight on both sides of the leaf. I like to have that highlight on both sides. It gives your leaves a little bit of that serrated look. There we go. Howdy. We are really getting there quick.
Sunflower queen.
Am I?
Apparently.
I love sunflowers. I like painting them. Oh, Charlene. Well, you're better late than never. So the highlight, again, I've got a ton of liquid in my brush when I do this. And it's almost like a little scribble at the edge to give that petal sort of a petal. The leaf, a serrated edge. Bunny leaves.
Bunny leaves.
See, even Renee gets that.
Bunny leaves.
Yep.
This. Move that wheel. I will.
Wow, I cannot get over how vibrant that picture is. I can't get over how clear it is. Look at that.
This is a good camera.
It is. Am I frozen?
You just do it as
Oh, it's just trying to catch up. Okay.
Ooh. What's going on?
I don't know. What's going on? Ooh. The internet is slow.
It's not the internet.
What is it?
I think it's Chrome.
Oh,
There we go.
yeah.
Let's try that again.
So we have leaves galore. Now, I like to come back in with a little bit of asphaltum deep in those center veins, just with a little float of asphaltum, and you can use that color up underneath the leaves as well, up underneath the flowers. It's just toning. We've used asphaltum in every element in this piece. So that little bit of asphaltum actually just brings everything into balance. It's a little float of asphaltum. It just does lovely things. Keeps those leaves looking warm. Just trying to get through the pet door again.
Your head's too big.
Whose head? Oh, the dog's. Oops. There we go. That was stylish. I promptly put my fingers and my brush into yellow paint while I was loading asphaltum. Let's try it again, shall we? There we go. That little bit of asphaltum in the leaves, it just brings everything into balance. So we have leaves. So now I need a liner brush. I need a nice long liner brush. See if I can find, there it is. So I'm using a 5/0 extra long detail liner. And I'm thinning out a little bit of margarita. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of warm white. Not necessarily to lighten it, but to make this thinned green just a touch more opaque. And then I'm going to use that color to add a squiggly line to the edges of my leaves. And this has two benefits. One, I get to add, that final little zing of a highlight to the top of the leaves, but it also softens the overall look of the leaves so that they don't look hard-edged. And we want them to be kind of soft. So there's my line, and I'm going to add a curlicue. What's the matter, Maze? Those irregular lines on the edges of the leaves kind of imply that there's a serrated edge on these leaves. And it softens the look of them, but it also brightens them a little bit. With all those dark greens, they can get a little heavy looking. So I like to soften them up a little. And using those soft, irregular lines and putting that little sharp curlicue on the end just helps make the leaves look a little bit softer. So I'm thinning out a little bit of baby duck. I'm going to grab a little more here. Got it thinned out with a little bit of glaze, and I'm adding a little bit of warm white to it because I want this a little bit lighter, and a fair amount of glaze because I want this fairly thin. And we're going to start on the petals like this. And I do something similar to the leaves to the petals of my flowers. And it gives these petals a little more elegance, a little more detail, without being over the top. I sometimes think that if we use a really light color, like a warm white or something, it tends to make them look a little heavier. And I want to keep the colors that are already in the flower. And I like that little flip over, putting that little teardrop in there kind of makes the petal look a little bowed. And I love this. It also helps define some of the petals too.
Computer's gonna hate me.
Why?
I'm loading up the wheel.
Oh, okay.
Names.
So such a fun method to get, some really delicate detail on your sunflower.
There we go. Apparently it needs to know the difference between
So by putting this on, it also takes care of that little gap that we created. And any little turnovers that you might want, you can pop those in. Cleans up any little rough edges. I love the delicacy that this brings to the flowers, so I love it. Oh no. Look what I did. Honestly. Some days, I kid you not, this is what happens when you put your finger in paint and you don't realize it. So I'm just scrubbing that off. There it goes. I'll take a little bit of thin asphaltum and put it back because I kind of took off all the color that I had on there. There we go. Oops. I have a gift. I had one of those oopsie daisies. There we go. Now I got a couple here. Shoop. Got a bunch of names on that thing today.
So far, 185.
Wow. That's lots of names. Hopefully all y'all are subscribed to my YouTube channel.
Well, you had a new member today.
Oh, awesome. We've had a couple of new members this month. And a couple of old new members this month. Yeah.
There was Shaylin, who just subscribed.
Awesome.
Dorothy Farmer just subscribed.
Awesome.
I knew that was about 2 hours ago.
Yep.
Going through here. Janet Daly just subscribed.
Awesome.
And Shauna Waters became a member.
Awesome, Shauna. Well, we'll get you sorted out this afternoon with all your membership goodies, depending on the tier that you're on.
Let's check out.
There we go. So our sunflower is all detailed now. So we just have some lettering to do, but I wanted to show you, there's a couple of different ways you can handle the some of the details in the center of the flower. And this one is my favorite. Ordinarily I use dip dots, but I find dip dots can be a bit much. So I used my my black Posca pen to put a nice little row of tiny little scattered black dots around the center of the flower and coming out onto the petals. Almost did it again. Bunny leaves.
I don't think they can see what you're doing.
Oh, why?
Something happened.
What happened?
I don't know.
What happened?
Give me 1 second. Yeah, something happened.
no.
What happened?
Did it record? Mm.
Well, yeah, I would love to. Not right. Close that. So, activate. What is going on here? Please run camera hub to use all that. Okay. Thought I was running it. Okay. 1 second.
Bear with us, gang.
This is a new one. Don't know why it just suddenly decided to not play nice with us. There, I'll switch cameras so I can figure it out.
I think I may have zoomed too much.
Camera hub. Okay, there it is. Wake up.
Oh no.
Everything else works except that.
Oh no.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, it's trying. It. There you go. Gun. Good. Try this again. Okay. Good there. And let's see if this works.
Ta-da!
We're back.
Good heavens. Okay, I have absolutely no idea where we lost you, but for those little dots in the center of the flower, this is what I used. I used a black and a white Posca pen, and I added the black dots to that shaded section in the cup and along the bottom, wherever I put the black. And then I brought some out onto the petals. I actually called them petals this time, not leaves. And then I did the same thing with the white, except I focused the white on the highlight areas, and then I brought a few of those out onto the petals as well. And that gives us that nice light texture in the center of the flowers.
You have a zoom. You don't have to.
I know, it's force of habit. And I'm zoomed. So
You are zoomed.
I am zoomed. So these Posca pens are fantastic. These are the Uni, the 0.7 millimeter pin type. You can use the pointed type as well. There also is a 0.7 millimeter. I like the pin type though. It's like working with an ultrafine Sharpie. They're fantastic. I got this set. It's a set of 8 different colors through Dick Blick. I absolutely love Dick Blick. They have a great selection. Their shipping is great and timely. Even shipping into Canada is reasonable. So I've been using a number of products from them, and one of which is these pin type Posca pens. Fantastic. I love them. So I'm going to keep the white one out because we are now at the point where we're going to do some lettering. And we'll add a few little finishing touches as well. So,
I'll give you back your check.
thank you.
He's using up a lot of RAM, so I was trying to figure
My
it out.
shirt, it's an apron. There we go. My shirt is actually my apron. It's covered in skulls. It was a gift to me from a friend. So the word autumn, we're going to put right here, right across the top. I'm going to tape that in place. Tum-ta-tum. You just want to make sure it's, reasonably straight. So I've got the word autumn in place. I'm going to grab a piece of white graphite paper. This is this is so easy when you do it this way. And I need my red pen. To the far right there. Yeah, I did miss one. Thank you. I see it. So I've got the letter A. I am quite in love with these hand script lately. Quite in love with this hand script. I think it works really well. I've had this apron a very long time. I love this apron. I have another one similar to it that I also love. So we have the word autumn. You have an option here. You can tuck it in behind the sunflower, or you can have it go over top of the sunflower. Either way, it's not wrong. So I'm going to use a little bit of asphaltum, and I'm going to shade on the inside of our letter and on the right, like so. Nice little float, doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to lift this lettering off the surface a little bit. Just like that. Now, if you're finding the lettering is not popping enough, right here, I'm going to actually erase one because I didn't like it. So there we go. I'm going to the right, and there is a cross there. There we go. So that little float does wonders. It just lifts this lettering off of the surface a little bit. I'm going to go over the lettering this time. I went under it the last time. So I'm going to go over it this time because why not? So I'm going to dry that really well. I have to come down here and fix this little highlight back here because I whoopsied. So I'll grab my liner brush and I'll fix that one. There. So all kinds of ways that you can fix whoopsies. There we go. So lettering, we've got our lettering shaded.
Curious.
What? Maxu.
Yeah. Look at that.
Spiffy neat. So you can use this little one, or you can use this bigger one for the lettering. It all depends on you, on how big you want the lettering. I printed mine off a little bit bigger this time around, so I'm going to use my bigger pen. So you can, as I said, you can put your lettering in behind or on top. It really doesn't matter. It's a matter of choice. And because I went with a bigger lettering, I chose to go with a bigger pen. How is Taz doing? Taz has created just absolute havoc in this household. She never used to bother with water other than drinking it until she had her first surgery. And then while she was under the influence of, I'm going to go with narcotics because I've never seen a cat act like that before. She decided and developed a rather energetic affinity for water. So she emptied Maze's big water bowl in the garage the first day. I mean, and then I'm talking not just splashing water everywhere. She literally was acting like she was swimming in it. Like she was trying to dig every last drop of water out of the water bowl. And she literally had water everywhere. And then while my husband was cleaning up that mess in the garage, she went into the kitchen and emptied the one in the kitchen. So he had to wash the floor in the kitchen. And then the other day, she discovered the toilet in the main floor bathroom. And went at it like she was, Michael Phelps. And tried to empty that all over the place. So yeah, she made quite... And yesterday she decided that, being told to stay off the kitchen counters was merely a suggestion. She's a little bit, yeah, she's getting back at us for the surgery. Oh my God. Yeah. So, yeah, she's a little bit of a handful. So, here we go.
Is there another ball under there?
May's lost a ball in here again.
She brought one down.
So, we have, look at that. It's really come together quite nice. I have a little repair work to do right here. Oh, okay. I'm going to grab a little bit of warm white. Remember our little tabletop here? While I was fixing that travesty with the baby duck all over the place, I in turn washed off all of this highlight for that background. There we go. That's better. So I'm going to put a little bit of it back. And then I also have to bring in our, come back and do our little curly cue here because, you know, we needed a curly cue. And so we only really have a couple of little things left to do. There is a hole in this tag right here. And so it needs a little bit of black in there because you lose the hole. And then our final step is to take your favorite fugly brush. And we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum for this. And spatter with asphaltum. Now rinse that, and we're going to spatter it one more time with a little bit of warm white. Because it is a rustic and distressed piece, and we need it to look rustic and distressed. So a little bit of heavily thinned. I like to keep that spatter nice and light. I prefer to see it nice and tiny. It has a better effect overall. There we go. And one last thing. We need to ground that can to the tabletop. So I'm going to grab my 1/2-inch angled shader. I'm going to dry that spatter first because otherwise I will more than likely smear it somehow. I've managed to get yellow in places today it didn't belong, so dry that. And I need to ground this can to the tabletop. So I'm going to bring a float along the bottom edge of the can, like so, to about the highlight area. Just give it this soft curve so that it ends right about on that highlight area there. Gives us a nice little shadow. And then you can also bring a little shadow along here, right at the edge of the table against that highlight. It's just heavily thinned lamp black. It's just going to solidify that tabletop a little bit visually. There we go. So I'll dry that, and then the last thing that I have to do is to sign it. There we go.
Ta-da.
Autumn Joy. That is such a fun piece to do. Super simple. Lots of fun techniques in it. So Renee has the wheel all loaded up. I'm going to give you the face cam. Ta-da! Fun piece. Fun piece to paint. So Renee's got the wheel all loaded up. And it is time, hopefully. And let's see where it is.
It's not showing up here.
Oh, no.
There it is.
Okay.
Ta-da.
So, as I said, in order to get your name on the wheel for giveaways every Saturday, all you have to do is join us in the chat, say hello, say good morning, tell us where you're watching from, and your name will go on the wheel at the end of the day. We give it a spin, and 2 of you are going to win whatever we're giving away today. And today we've got some Dynasty brushes, a pattern, we've got a surface, we've got a great little create bag, and there's always some fun stuff in there too. So we have 2 of those to give away today. And let's see who they're going to be.
And a pen.
Or
Pen. And a bit. Boom.
Give her a spin. And the first one goes to Robin Storm. Awesome.
1947.
Robin Storm is one of my members. She's awesome. There we go.
Yay. Robin says thank you, sweetheart.
Okay.
Okay.
And give her a spin.
Last one. Why are you chewing on your nails there, pup?
I thought she was chewing on her ball.
Well, it's going for a nail. Who this?
Jeanette Baudouin. Jeanette Baudouin. So as always, guys, Robin, I know where you live, so I don't need your address. But Jeanette, make sure you go over to the website at tracymoreau.net. Click on the little speech bubble. Our little speech bubble is no longer there. Never mind me. Click on the contact button and send us your shipping information, please, so we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible. I'm bunny leavesing today like crazy.
So Robin and Jeanette.
Robin and Jeanette are our winners for today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this piece, Autumn Joy. Anytime there's sunflowers to paint, I'm all in. I love sunflowers. I have something really spectacular for you next weekend. We're going to be painting another one of those framed flowers, the ones that come out of the frame. I have been having a lot of fun playing with that, and I've been working on wildflowers. And of course, I get carried away. I always do. So next week, we're going to be doing something fun using that technique again, and with something completely unique. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We go live here every Saturday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And we always have something fun to paint. And I always look forward to hearing your questions. And I love it. The more you ask, the happier I am. So it's all about keeping me happy, right? If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. Click on It's all about me. Click on the big red subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications so that you get notified every time we go live or when we add new video to the channel. And come and join me here or on Facebook every Saturday with a new project. I will see you again soon. Mwah! Love ya. Stay safe.
Pet your dog.
Pet your dog.
Mine's chewing your nails right now.
Yeah, I'm about to chew mine. Have a great weekend, everyone.